Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Helm to Tower podcast. I am Mike Burgess, your host, and I am with my co-host, Alex O'Neill. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
Hello. Alex, now you know, from when the people watching this, listening to this on podcast services or watching on youtube.com/rationalpassions, we will no longer be days away. We will be hours away from
like one full day, right?
Yeah, like probably a little bit less, probably even a little bit less than that. For when we'll be playing Destiny 2 Lightfall. That's how close we are, folks. We're right there.
Just know, like, the folks listening to this that are listening to it because they're just like ravenously consuming Destiny content in the 24-hour period that Destiny is not available to them.
Yeah, you're like twiddling your thumbs.
We are doing the same, just with other things.
Yeah, pretty much. We're twiddling our thumbs, sitting here, just be like, God, it's almost here, but I can't even play Destiny. What do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do with my life? It's gonna be questioning so many things. But there's still plenty. There's plenty to talk about this week that just passed. They still somehow found information to give us for this expansion. It's like wild, like still how much stuff came out this week about thing. Granted, some of it was like more like elaborations on things we already knew about. That stuff is the big thing.
Still, like,
we're going to talk about
bigger than we thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah, for sure. That came in the form of a couple things. We got another blog that talks about bringing challenge back to Destiny, which Joe Blackburn talked about a little bit in that State of the Game article we talked about last episode. This article kind of expanded on that and kind of gave us a lot of more details on what that means for Lightfall coming. And then we got the TWAB. The TWAB actually had some cool info this week, like we know about some artifact perks, because they're no longer mods now, folks. In Lightfall, they're going to be perks. So we can talk about those. Some of those sound very spicy.
Super exciting.
Yeah, a lot of very spicy stuff. I'm excited to talk about that. And then we also got some videos and some trailers. We got the launch trailer for Lightfall and some other like cool little like videos where they were kind of like developer insights. It was kind of like, it seemed like they kind of like took a little bit of extended sections of the Vidoc we had last week and kind of showed it more. Like they had one on Strand. They had one actually on the villains of Callus and the Witness, talking a little bit about them more. We'll talk about that stuff a little bit, but I think, again, as we said at the top of the episode, like, we are hours away, so we're not going to, like, sit here and go crazy dissect. Like, those videos are already out there, to be fair. Like, if you're following Destiny content, you've probably already seen some of the videos. So we're not going to go into it too much, but I think we can at least still talk about it a little bit and talk about, like, you know, maybe our final theories of what we think is going to happen in Lightfall right before we get to jump into it ourselves. But yeah,
so we talk about how wrong we are next week.
Exactly, talk about how wrong we are within that same time period. But yeah, the last week of Season of the Seraph happened. I definitely was playing a bit this week. I tried to mix it up because I want to go into the expansion fresh. But I will say I did some. I don't know how much you did, but I did do some Warden of Nothing Grandmaster farming for some Wendigo rolls. I got a couple of decent ones that I'm excited to mess around with and try once we get that grenade launcher damage buff in Lightfall.
Yeah, I think all of the farming that I did was with you.
Okay, gotcha.
Not that much, right?
Yeah.
I think I did like 4 runs in total.
Yeah.
But, you know, I helped some of my newer friends get through the Seraph mission on Legendary, get the catalysts for Revision 0, and then potentially after we finished recording this or tomorrow, I'm going to help them do the story finale.
Nice. Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah, I'm doing one final King's Fall run before the expansion tomorrow with my clan. So looking forward to that. I'm going to hopefully finish off some. I think there's at least one gun I only need one more red border from in King's Fall, and like that, then I'll be done with one more gun there. But I think I still have a couple left. But yeah, that'll be one final run for that.
I spent more time this week. Like, I got my full artifice set masterworked and set aside with no mods in it, with the kind of drip, my strand drip, if I may.
Yep. I have that as well.
Yeah, I cleaned the vault. I think I got it down to like 340-ish, which I feel good about.
Nice.
Obviously, I've never really had a lot of vault issues just because I don't run 3 characters really. So, but it's nice to clean stuff out, get ready for all the new loot.
Yeah, get ready for new stuff.
And yeah, that was really it. I was very lucky to get a very, very early code for something that I'm going to be reviewing for Irrational Passions. Go check that out next month. I can't talk about quite yet. That's like absolutely nothing like Destiny. So it's like, cool. I can just pour all of my
turn off and
hyperfixate on this for a little bit so I can be distracted.
Yeah, I feel that my game for that has been Atomic Heart randomly.
Oh yeah,
because
I've been wanting to check it out.
It's on Game Pass. It's me actually right before we recorded this, me and Quinn did a viewpoints to that, so that'll also be up on youtube.com/Irrational Passions probably the same week we were playing Lightfall. Yeah, that game's weird. Not to go off on too deep of a tangent here. I am enjoying it, but it's like it is the most like B-movie ass video game I feel like I've ever played. Because like it's clearly like riffing off BioShock, but like not the best. And then like it also has like a lot of very tropey video game, like first person shooter video game stuff from like 10 years ago. And then the main voice actor for the character you play as is like the most dude bro macho-y voice I've like heard in a video game in years. But it's like and it's like hard to tell if it's like the game is like intentionally being very campy and awful, or if the game is just actually that. So it's like this weird blend of like you can see me and seeing Quinn's reaction was like made me feel good about it because I was like playing it and having these feelings, and then we started playing, and then we were playing it like kind of together, or for the viewpoints video rather. Not there's no co-op in it, but like he started having the same thoughts and reactions to things in this game that I was having, of just like, this is just like stupid, but kind of in an entertaining stupid way. So
sure.
So go check out that video if you want. That's also been my thing of just like, I'm just going to kind of play this because it was on Game Pass anyway, so I didn't really pay extra money for it. So
yeah,
and
just a filler game.
It just distracts me while we're anticipating the Lightfall drop. But yeah, let's get into the Lightfall news we got. Like I said at the top here, we got the first blog that came out was bringing challenge back to Destiny.
Controversial blog
indeed, because they actually so like for this is we're recording this days after this blog came out, so they actually put the blog out. And there's some confusion with it, and then they actually, the same day they put up the TWAB, the Thursday blog, they actually went back and updated this blog originally and added some extra things to it. Like, it was more like clarifying some of the stuff they go over, and also added a section about rewards, so like some of the reward updates that are coming with things. So I've kind of collected this all in this doc here and abbreviated some of that stuff. So kind of a big few key things here that I wanted to point out is, if you're playing the game now, if you played Nightfalls, there's difficulty tiers in those. I don't think it's just Nightfalls that have this difficulty, the difficulty tiers of like Hero, Legend, and all that stuff. So there's a base one that is Adept in the game right now. That is going away completely with Lightfall, and now so technically the base thing going forward is going to be Hero difficulty level for Nightfalls, for whatever has those difficulty selection tiers, which I think is like the weekly story campaign, the Empire hunts. Yes. I think all of those have that, so that's just going away now. And now Hero will be the base. They said to get into those that starting difficulty tier, you have to be for the expansion at soft cap, which for Lightfall will be 1750. And then any tier above that, the next tier above that, I think is Master, and you have to be at Power Cap to get into that.
It's Legend.
Or Legend, yeah, thank you.
Hero, then Legend. Yeah.
Hero, and then Legend. So for Legend, you then have to be at the Power Cap, which will be 1800, and then assuming, it's standard stuff, 1810 will be the Pinnacle Cap if you want to get to Pinnacle Cap. But yeah, those are the main ones, though, like 1750, if you want to do Hero or Heroic tier Nightfalls or other activities. You have to be at 1750, and then if you want to do anything higher than that, you have to at least be 1800. So that's what will be going forward. They're introducing a new kind of modifier difficulty system here. The big thing which they introduced in Season of the Seraph was the kind of the power thresholds that you can't overpower. So if you've done the heist battlegrounds, those are you're always -5 power from whatever your power is in that, no matter what you do. That's just what's the modifier on. So that is just going to be a thing across a bunch of modes in the game now. Specifically, like Nightfalls is the exact same way. So hero difficulty, you'll always be -5 power. Legend, you will be -10. And then I think it is Master is, or it might be -15 for Legend. I think I have it in here.
It's -15 for Legend, -5 for Hero.
Yeah, -5 for Hero, -15 for Legend, -20 for Power, or -20 for Master, and then -25 for Grandmaster Nightfalls, which that still is what it is now. So basically, that also includes other stuff. So they have Lost Sectors will now be well, for Lost Sectors specifically, you can still overpower those a little bit, but for I think it's for raids, Master Raids, from now on you will always be -20. The same with Dungeons, Master Dungeons, you're always going to be -20 under those now.
Let's full stop and just talk about this first.
Yep.
How do you feel about this?
I'm fine overall. I'm fine with these changes because I think they have to make these the highest of the highs. They had to have made more challenging because I think that's what people wanted. Like overall, what they are attempting to do with this, as they say in this article, is they're trying to make Master feel like contest mode raid days. And that's what contest mode generally is, -20. Now, there are like extra modifiers, and you have stuff like champions are in those difficulty tiers now on some of that stuff. So those are not there on day one raids in some regards. Some raids have champions, some don't, but they're usually not like a big factor where like in some of this master tier stuff. So like that's definitely a differentiation there. But, there's a lot of other things that go into this too, like the surge and threat stuff. Like I don't think that stuff is too much in the master raids and dungeons per se, if I remember correctly.
I don't think it is at all currently.
But there's a few things that they kind of go over with this stuff that kind of is being incorporated in this. But overall, I think for the master tier content, the hardest of the hard content, like it makes sense to do this, especially with like other stuff they're introducing from like they're making adept weapons have enhanced perks. They're making things that like eventually there will be a point where you can take adept weapons and like enhance them further, right? Like I think that's the whole thing with it. Like you're gonna be able to take raid weapons and enhance them at some point. Like there will be some point where they're just like any weapons you're getting, you can enhance them. So like I think there is like a reason to like bring the difficulty up in this game in general, just because of like this kind of stuff. Like in terms of that stuff, like we'll get into like Nightfalls and Vanguard stuff and like all those changes. Like I definitely think you're a crazy person if this stuff sounds like it is the end of the world to you.
Yes, for sure.
Because there's definitely people who are acting like it was, and like we'll get into that. But I do want to like give a little bit more information on this stuff here.
Just the minus power. This definitely like it makes me more concerned with my personal level of enjoyment for Master Dungeons and Master Raids. I'll say not that I like frequently did those activities out of an enjoyment factor, right? Not necessarily, but I don't particularly love contest mode. I know that's like very contrary to a lot of people. I think a lot of people really enjoy contest mode. Even playing ground makes that day one raid experience a lot more interesting and makes things matter a lot more. And I'm sure that will matter for Master Raids going forward. But as someone who like worked through all of Master King's Fall over the course of 5 weeks last season, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and definitely appreciated as the season went on. It got a little bit easier as I got stronger. I just always felt that there was plenty in those to make them very difficult.
Sure.
I'm thinking of now going back to Master War Priest and doing that experience, like you'd have to kill me and drag my dead body into that encounter with these changes. Like retroactively makes those things so much less appealing to me.
Sure.
And I think on some level that is a bummer, but much like everything here, it is like we have gotten so deep into the territory of everything being different that like all mods changing was already enough where it's like, well, I guess I'll have to see how this is going to be.
Yeah.
But like that and this and that and this, like all on top of each other.
It's so many unknowns.
It's definitely like we'll wait and see. We'll see how it goes. See what the interest level is, and with surges added into it, and stuff like that, it'll certainly be easier to kind of keep up with enemies. But yeah, it wasn't. I'm not super stoked about -20 power master dungeons and raids, but again, we can continue and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely something that'll like that. That's something I think at that level. You just have to see it in action to really have a feeling for it. But a big other thing they're introducing, which are going to be surges and threats. They're going to be added into activities across the board. Basically, if you play the game now, in Nightfall specifically, or like most of where these shows up, there's a thing called acute burns. So it'll be like acute solar burn. Basically makes it so, hey, and when your solar abilities, your solar weapons do more damage, but enemies who do solar attacks of some kind, those also do more damage to you in turn.
A lot more damage.
A lot more damage. So basically, they're splitting those. So basically like surges now will be like your abilities and weapons that match these elements. Will gain a 25% damage boost. If you are on a surging subclass, your kinetic weapons will also get a 25% damage boost. So basically, if it's like it's solar surge for a week, your solar weapons, your solar abilities will get a damage buff, but also like any kind of kinetic weapon you use, it doesn't have like an element attached to it.
If you're running that subclass.
If you're running the solar subclass that week, it will those weapons will get a 25% damage buff. So they did tell us the season 20 surges. So all season long, Strand will always be a surge, but then Solar and Void will basically flip flop each week. Besides that, throughout season 20. So that's pretty interesting that it's just going to be like there's 3. I know I definitely saw a lot of people kind of being on edge of it's like it's only going to be these 3 for a thing. You're shifting the meta so hard, and it's like I don't think that actually will matter that much considering these still do the things acute burns do, more or less, except they're separated. And I was farming Warden of Nothing this week and I literally just had 2 solar guns, and I was Arc Titan Thunder crashing that boss and was able to do it without any issue. So I still feel like it'll be fine. Like, granted, I was like, especially considering again, you are already minus 25 power in GMs already in the game now. So like, it really is not going to change that much. If anything, you can just get the boost to like kinetic damage weapons. This surge stuff also. Well, actually, this is the different thing. So I'll get to that later. That's about overcharge weapons. Threats are basically taking the negative aspects of the burns I mentioned, where now there will be the threats will be random, or I think in the Vanguard Ops playlist, but for Nightfalls it'll continue to be like this particular strike or battleground will have a specific threat tied to it. So it'll be like solar threat or void threat or whatever for that specific ones when they are a Nightfall. Yeah,
which is good. Because that means 50% burn is gone, baby.
Yeah, now it's just a 25. It's just 25% damage now instead of the 50% damage. So they're technically doing less damage to you, which is pretty nice. And that's also like you can obviously now more spec in that directly with like builds and stuff, which is nice because now it's not like
because you can put 3 arc resists on your chest piece now anytime like you want.
Yeah, exactly. Another aspect to this are also now going to be overcharged weapons. So basically there's going to be 1 or 2 weapon types per activity, as well as any selectable anti-champion perks, which we'll get into whenever when you pick an anti-champion perk that makes that weapon overcharged in activities across the board.
Any activity that has overcharge. This I really like because like suddenly, you're upset that you can't use your favorite arc pulse, right? Like, well, if pulses are overcharged, boom. Doesn't matter that it's arc.
Doesn't matter that it's arc.
It's getting that extra damage
exactly,
bump, which is great.
Yeah, this is really smart. People are like getting way in over their heads about like. I think, granted, this was like some of the stuff they clarified and updated in this article.
Yes.
So like people kind of saw this initial thing and thought like, oh, this is way more restrictive. They were supposed to be opening up our builds, and then you do this. Like there's a whole bunch of like scuttlebutt in the earlier days, and then they clarified with this stuff, and then like you read this and it's like, oh wow, actually this is still in the realm of like they're totally just opening up this stuff for way more than it was, because now it's like 3 different. Well, it'll technically be 2 different surges to choose from, and now you also have overcharge, which then you can use to also fit out different weapons and like mix and match weapons in a much larger pool than you could before, because before, again, like they said, it was just a cute burn. So you basically were just like, well, I have to have solar stuff because these solar weapons are going to be doing more damage. So like if it's like a scout anti-champion scout stuff, you're probably going to use like a solar scout or something, or some kind of solar DPS weapon, or some kind of solar subclass where like now it's like you can do that stuff, but now you can also use overcharge weapons to kind of mix and match to different elements. Or you can use the champion mods to overcharge weapons and do different elements. Like it is all like, it opens up a lot more opportunities for the build crafting, and I really like that as well.
Yeah, now guns that have never been able to benefit from singe or burn in the past, right? Like Outbreak, on top of getting its like 10% kinetic buff, will now be able to benefit from pulse overcharge, right?
Yep.
And now suddenly Outbreak is your like one-stop absolute murder weapon, stuff like that. Arbalist, which is getting nerfed and then kind of buffed again, is now going to be able to do way more damage than it ever could in a GM, which is really interesting. And it helps like ease the pain of like a 15% linear hurt if like linears are ever on the artifact or whatever. It helps the things baseline stay more balanced, but shift season to season in a way that is hopefully, I'm sure Bungie hopes, is interesting.
Yeah. And basically this is their own words here. I pulled from the things. I'll just read this. So prior to season 20, if you wanted that 25% damage bonus, your only option was to match the damage type defined by the strike, and given that match game was present in Legend or above, we were often requiring element flexibility to deal with shields. In Season 20, you can match 1 or 2 damage types, or pick the same from a wide variety of specific weapons based on artifact perks. Additionally, if your subclass is surging, any kinetic weapon automatically gets the 25 damage bonus, no matter what type it is. And with that match game, you are free to be much more flexible with the elements of your weapons, even running monocolor builds to maximize damage bonuses. So there you go. That's kind of what they're going for.
Yeah,
it's great. This just opens up a lot of stuff, I like that a lot. I like the system. Sounds cool. I
can definitely see it getting tweaked in the future. Maybe this might be like too much, right? We'll see. But it's definitely really cool on paper. And this is the thing where it's like, while I don't love minus 20 power in master dungeons and stuff, like being able to take advantage of this on top of that is interesting. And I'm curious how much of a difference it's going to make when you're already at such a power deficit. Was Legendary campaign for Witch Queen specifically, was that minus 10 or minus 15?
I want to say it was minus 15.
Okay.
Because I think that's why they're making Legend to minus 15, because that like essentially will be sort of like on par with the Legendary campaign difficulty. But yeah, so that's like across that stuff we talked about is like now just across the board. It's like it's mainly Nightfalls like specifically, but like also like this stuff is being applied to like Dares of Eternity, Wellspring, Lost Sectors, like I said, raids or master tier dungeons and raids. So like Surge Threat, all that stuff. Those are just things I would become familiar with, if that if that didn't make sense to you, I would get familiar with it, just because it'll be a thing.
Find your
forward.
Destiny friend and have them explain it to you.
Yeah, for sure. So now we'll go over some strike updates. They did some of this we already knew, so I'll just go through a couple of these things quickly here. Arms Dealer, Like Shadows, getting updated. They specifically said new enemies, encounters, mechanics, and objectives, and they also said less sparrow friendly, which I thought was pretty funny. That was straight up some shade on the Shadows speedrunners. I mean, Arms Dealer even had a little bit of that too, to be fair, because you could just skip a whole area of that. So I'm curious if that's what they mean. This is like for these both to potentially how many changes they're listing here makes them sound potentially like they're just entirely new strikes, because they're saying straight up new encounters and mechanics.
Yeah, new encounters. That's wild.
That is pretty wild. So I'm curious what that even means.
The top tier hope is some D1 shit like Taken King and Rise of Iron, where they went back and updated strikes to be contextual in the story, right? Infamously
that'd be cool.
What's it? The strike that we have with the big servitor.
Devil's Lair.
Devil's Lair, thank you. Devil's Lair got the update where servitor became Sepix Prime became all CVE. And got the rock and roll music on it, and some of the enemies and stuff changed, which wasn't a huge change, but it was cool, and it felt like the strike had changed. I'm hoping that is what's happening.
It's like that for these two. That'd be cool. Yeah,
put Shadow Legion in Arms Dealer. Make that, I assume Shadow Legion is going to be in whatever the new Amino strike is, but that would be really cool. Or
I agree.
Add Tormentors to fucking Lake of Shadows, because Lord knows we never got Hive Guardians and anything cool. So
for sure. I would really like that as well. So again, like I said last episode, probably the first thing I'm going to do after we beat that legendary campaign and we're done. We're done streaming, and we're
not going to run it with you.
I'm jumping right into this trick. I want to see what this friggin'
Let's
strike
run it,
like.
dude.
Yeah, we should do it for sure after we do that campaign. I want to see it. More strikes will be updated in the future, like we said that we talked about that in the last episode. There was Exodus Crash and Inverted Spire will probably be the next two. Psyops and Heist Battlegrounds in the Vanguard Ups playlist in Lightfall. That'll be cool. A lot more content in there. They're bringing back scoring, or they're adding scoring to the Vanguard Ups playlist. Now, this doesn't seem like it is the scoring that, if you played a few months back, they added it back in the scoring that was more like the Destiny 1 strike scoring into Guardian games. This maybe it is this version of it. We don't know for sure. They didn't really say. But this sounds more like it is just like how scoring works in Nightfalls right now. But it won't be. But it'll basically be all the stuff you get from scoring for getting kills, reviving, picking up orbs of light, all that stuff. The multiplier will be based on what kind of strike it is or what kind of battleground it is, and then from here on, the Vanguard rank you get from a particular strike will be multiplied for more, depending on what this actual score is. So I think they have the largest multiplier you can get is a ×7 if you get over 250,000 score, which is pretty wild.
Awesome.
Which is pretty wild. But I'm assuming that will probably only be possible on Grandmasters, because they said this Vanguard rank multiplier for each thing, it does include Nightfalls. So I'm assuming that 250,000 is probably from doing just Grandmasters.
Yeah, but it also says, right, it's every 5,000 points over the initial 30K will get you some level of multiplier, probably 1.1 to 1.2, whatever it is. Yeah. If you're just running strikes on double Vanguard week, and you hit your 5-time streak, and you hit I'm trying to think, Insight Terminus. I guess you won't hit that because it's not in the playlist. Just start farming score. You hit something that would be something where you can get maybe 70K on a normal strike. Suddenly you're getting 1.2 times 5 times times 2, right? You're
blasting through those Vanguard ranks now,
which makes sense with how you have to stack hundreds of Vanguard engrams
to get if you want to legacy focused stuff. For sure. Yeah, this just it adds more incentivizing of like, you know, actually playing the strike as well, which I'm all for, because you are getting those increased multipliers for higher scores, which gives you more rep to level up, hit that rank faster, get more engrams, upgrade his track for all like the stuff on the tracks. I like that addition for sure.
And the change for Nightfalls, where its cumulative score has to hit 200k, you don't have to do it in one run anymore,
right?
Or 100k in one run, which is great, because maybe I'll actually get that pinnacle every week now.
Yeah, because that's not too bad, because that's basically still just running a couple of those. And then I think the other thing was like they technically made it so you have to run 5 strikes total, or you can run higher tier Nightfalls, and that does like, I think that's just for a powerful. I don't remember exactly what they said there.
Yeah,
but that'll be a different change, but I think it'll be overall fine, because I like these changes a lot. Mm-hmm. So basically,
it's gonna be so different. It's just I'm not. Yeah. It's hard to imagine like running a regular strike where it's like not a complete breeze. yeah, right. And it's something else that they mention here. I think I have it somewhere in here, but strikes, with the difficulty change that they're making across the board, strikes will no longer be power enabled or power disabled, I think is how they put it. So basically what that means is that you can't over level strikes anymore, base strikes anymore, but like the enemies are always on level with you. So like this really is not that big of a deal, like straight up people. If you have played a match of Gambit and fought enemies in Gambit, that's literally all it's going to be. That's how it is in the game now. Like it's actually kind of crazy if you actually think about that. Like you were able to that drastically over level freaking strikes, but you couldn't do something like that in Gambit. Like when strikes is like the main thing. Come on. Yeah.
So like this is just gonna be base for that. I think that I like that a lot. I personally like that a lot, because like strikes are probably something that's still even as kind of mundane as they kind of can be as they are right now. Like that's probably the thing I play the most, because you know you can just do all kinds of the moment to moment activities, doing bounties or doing leveling up crafted weapons, doing this, doing that, like whatever it is. It is just kind of playing the game for that stuff, and I don't really engage with Gambit or Crucible that much. So like I would like the Vanguard ops to feel more active and be also more in line with the difficulty of like the larger game when you go into like raids and dungeons and other stuff. So I think this all makes sense. People were so up in arms about this like increase and then the thinking about rewards. Let me tell you, they already kind of told us about rewards for this, because there actually are technically increased rewards from all of these things, because they did tell us cosmetic rewards are going to be in the playlist now. So like, granted, it's also older stuff, so there will be folks probably like me, even me myself probably has a decent amount of this older stuff because I played the game for many years. But I guarantee if you're somebody who's complaining about this, the upper difficulty, as like somebody's like, oh, I don't have that much time to play, I got like 5 kids or this whatever, like I get it, you know, everyone has their life, you know, they have their jobs, and not everyone can commit that amount of time. If you're that person, if you are that person, that means that is more rewards for you, because you probably are not playing that actively to get that stuff in the first place years ago. So those are new things for you to get. Also, a big thing that people are overlooking, again, we talked about it, granted, you know, again, a lot of information to take in and over these weeks and stuff, but legacy focusing. You can just go play base level strikes, get Vanguard engrams, and go get some of the best weapons of the game from those legacy focusing Nightfall weapons. Like you can go get Hothead, you can get Duty Bound, you can get like Plug One, like there will be a bunch. Yeah, some of the best weapons in the game. You can just like play those base level Vanguard and strikes now and go get those. So like there is actually more rewards here from Vanguard ups that like I think people are just not connecting all those other things together. And I think that's better. Because, like, realistically, like, you're saying, oh, make it more rewarding. That's like, what are they going to do? They're going to drop more. They're going to make it so it drops more, like, freaking the stupid Fool's Remedies strike sidearm. Does anybody even like use that at all? Like, come on, like,
No.
but those other things are more meaningful, like cosmetic rewards and the Nightfall, like things focusing and stuff you can do from that, from working towards them. So like, there are some legitimate, like, better rewards across the board for this stuff. And like, again, strikes are basically just gonna be hard as a match of Gambit now. When you fight enemies in Gambit, that's literally like they're gonna be on that same tier now. That's all it is. It's like really not that much harder. If like that for some reason sounds harder to you, like I don't know what to tell you. Like, you know, I don't know. I think people just got too overblown about this.
It's tough because like I do play with a lot of newer players, or at least I have been recently, and there is definitely a reality where it's like folks are forgetting to use their heavy weapon, or forgetting to put all their abilities on cooldown, and that is also pushing the challenge up for them when we're doing strikes or whatever. And strikes are something that they feel good about keeping up with, and then they jump in the game and the enemies are killing them more and stuff. So I think on some level, the people that are going to be affected by this the most, it is going to, you know, make or break, either push them away or push them into using all the tools at their disposal. Right? I think if you are doing that, you are certainly not going to have that tough a time, right? Because, you know, you and I, that's what we're doing. We're making builds. Grenade's always on cooldown, getting finishers to get it back, to use it again. And it's that tempo. And that's the best part of Destiny. So like, hopefully the goal here is clearly to push everyone into build crafting, make it accessible, put loadouts in the game, give everybody all the mods, right? Like the hope here is that everybody's going to be having a better time because everyone's going to be actually playing the best part of Destiny.
Yeah. And I think, and that's
it's smart on that level.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like, it's smart on that level because it is pushing for that. Because like there's like, I know there's like been so many years of Destiny of just like, I don't know, the shooting feels good. It's a good shooter. And yes, of course. But that is like at this as we've gone on the years, like that is now like baseline to me. Like, of course the guns are going to feel good. They're always going to feel good. But now there's like so much layered on top of that of like how you can like, you know, feed into like doing like ability regens and cooldowns rapidly with mods or with aspects and fragments, putting, you know, exotics into that, like pieces of armor, exotic weapons. Like there's just like so many more layers now to it. And I think like if anything, I'm hoping like the bump in difficulty ultimately does push people to like expand their horizons and look at, you know, things like build crafting in Destiny and see how like it can take this game to another level than just like gun kind of good, gun feel good, you know.
Yeah.
Gun
I
good.
know, like
I like that gun. That's it. Like this game has so much more to offer, and I'm glad like, you know, a lot of these changes with Lightfall are looking to push people more into those avenues, and I just hope people are open to it.
Yeah, and you know, I think also a lot of the other changes, like the keys in the seasonal activity, always getting rewards from seasonal activity, will mean like, hey, you don't have to run as many strikes. You know, like you can do other stuff to get rewards, and that's fine. So like the brain dead strike playlist, because I got to level up this sniper rifle, and so I'm just gonna run 30 strikes, or I gotta get 12,000 candy for some reason to guild this title. So I'm gonna like throw my corpse into the strike playlist for 3.5 hours.
Throw some podcasts in a playlist or something. Let's get through
this. Exactly. that might not necessarily be the move anymore, but I think in place of it is a much more interesting video game.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm excited. I'm a little nervous just because it's different and change is scary, but but I am overall very excited.
Yeah. I see no problems, but maybe that is just the quote unquote secret elitist inside of me.
Yeah,
like,
the secret dado.
That just wants to, like, I do want this game to like feel a little bit more challenging.
I am like, I'm all for it. I'm like so excited.
Challenging, but also like in that becoming more engaging and making like my builds, the builds I like think about and tinker with, matter in more content than just like when I go into a GM or when I go into like even like a raid, because like sometimes even like base level raids for me like don't feel like especially challenging, because I know I can just kind of mess up with this stuff, where like now like there's a potential where that those feel more interesting, not just like in the period we were about to be when we jump into Lightfall and we're still leveling up and getting to our levels where once we hit that max level cap, a lot of this content is beneath me, quote, like, again, to be elitist-esque about it, because it's lower level, and I can just literally throw a single grenade from a build and like and just murder everything in an entire room, and like like that, even that does like not really push me to use like the full extent of my builds in a meaningful way. So I think like having more content to like push that, I would just like to have at any given time.
Think about like actually what I was going to say was testing builds in strikes and having it feel validating to some level. And when you get that, like we got 6 to 10 loadouts, have a strike build that's like rotating maybe of like, oh yeah, this helps me clear through these really, really quick, and it's actually super fun because I'm doing stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of again throwing a grenade and dissociating for 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
I do think this is a net positive. Again, if it didn't come with things like loadouts or legacy focusing, it would be more of a hard pill to swallow. But no, like we're getting the whole picture. This is this is Destiny 3, baby.
Yeah, a lot of stuff there for sure. So let's see the Nightfall. There's some extra Nightfall things. I won't. Again, we already went over like the power discrepancies, but like they introduced this season, like they kind of lowered the max, or they lowered the entry levels, so to speak, of when you can get into this. And I think like they kind of gave us numbers for like what is considered the max effectiveness of these of these like different tiers. Mm-hmm. So you can get into like they said for Nightfalls now, at hero difficulty you can get at 1750, but if you get up to 1765, that'll essentially be like your maximum effectiveness in that playlist. So like even if you're 750 you'll technically be lower and take more damage, but you still can level up a little bit and like gain a more effectiveness in those things, like if you are having a hard time and when you try and jump in at 1750. And that goes for all of these. So like Legend, again, you can get in at 1800, the power cap. But if you get up to 1815, which would be like a pinnacle cap, or like with the maybe with artifact leveling, you can get up to that a little bit better. Like you can be technically at max 1850 effectiveness for your power, and that can help you out a little bit. And then 1820, and then 1815 for the later things, which is interesting because Legend and Grandmaster are technically on the same tier of like effectiveness, but then like Master you could still be an extra 5. So that's interesting how that kind of ended up splitting up. But that'll just how it'll be.
It is very funny that you have to be lower level to get into Grandmaster before you get to Master effectively.
So yeah, again, they talked about master raids and dungeons and like the things that are coming with that. So their master raids and dungeons will have these overcharged weapons and surges. So there's no threat modifier, so enemies technically aren't going to be doing more damage from a specific damage type, but you will be like -20. But you will have an overcharged weapon, and your 2 surge weapons, or 2 surge modifiers, will also be in effect in these as well. So that's pretty interesting. And I think I like that because they said, like, this brings them in line with master experiences, but you don't need to build craft towards surge and overcharges. So this is to make it so combat. I think that's more so for like, because it says combatants don't have increased health or increased stagger resistance, which in some other activities they're going to have that. So they're a little tankier and can take a little bit more hits to kind of stagger. So that means there's some enemies will be in your face more a little bit. But that's not going to be in master raids and dungeons. So yeah. So I don't know. I think
that's a good call for sure. I think I'm so curious how it's going to feel.
Yeah, that's definitely a specific thing. Like you have to feel it out of like But dang, is this like red bar enemy just going to be like tanking through my shots or something? Like we just don't really know specifically, but
we get a later comment on legendary difficulty of like, we played Witch Queen 3-stack and we had a great time, but those were some chunky acolytes out there. There's lower in health.
There's some chunky enemies, especially in the later missions of that campaign.
Yeah, those knights, man, those knights are chunky.
Yep.
So I'm glad that's changing and that they're specifically looking at that for different types of activities. And adjusting it accordingly. I think that's really cool and that's really smart. My new working theory, Mike, is that Strand is just busted. They have to make everything.
I think it'll be busted.
Super hard.
I think it'll be busted. Yeah.
I do because remember we see in that Strand trailer, you see a hunter suspend an unstoppable champion, and the idea of suspending champions hadn't ever entered my mind, and I was like, this might be busted actually.
That's gonna be suspending is I think gonna be just like insane for for GM or like champion content and stuff like that, because assumingly you could, I guess I don't know if you could suspend like other champions, but because like suspending specifically works on unstops. But I don't know if that would maybe work on like an overload or like an anti-barrier per se.
An overload and then suspend it.
Yeah, that would be pretty nuts.
Which would still be busted.
Which would still be pretty busted. But to be fair, you can do that with stasis technically too, right?
Yeah, you can freeze
stun it and then freeze them, or just freeze them outright. So it kind of is in line with that a little bit.
But that's exciting.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I agree. I think it's gonna be a little busted across the board. People are not. I don't think people are like that in PvP either. But hey, here we
all know.
It's all how it goes.
We all know how much PvP gameplay of Strand they've shown, which is one scene and nothing else.
Yeah, they showed one scene and it was giving a hunter a freaking overshield and increased damage resistance and flinch and stuff. And it's
flinch resist, yeah. I wonder how this is going to go.
Yeah. But it's fine. It'll be fine. Everyone.
It's fine.
It's new. Just have fun with it. Who cares? Maybe in a month from now, I'll care more. But for now, it'll be fine.
The nicest part about all of this difficulty stuff and this whole article and everything changing like this is it's just gonna feel so fresh.
Yeah.
It might be rough for some parts of the game for a while. Definitely. You can't avoid that.
There's always something, right? It's not to harp on it, because they're especially now, because I think about it, look back and wow, I thought Witch Queen had a lot of changes, and then you see this, it's a whole nother level. And Witch Queen was an amazing expansion, but there are definitely little bits and pieces around it that weren't perfect. As you we got later into that season and we started realizing it's great. I'm sure we will get to that point with post Lightfall. But
some of these things
I think that's just natural to how they do things, because it is a live game, it is ongoing. I guarantee there's a lot of times where they have a massive system overhaul in mind, and they have to do it incrementally like this because it makes more sense than rather of making an insanely massive change that if it has issues, it'd be something they can't easily go back in and change minor things, right? I think of crafting weapons, but in particular think how dramatically different that is. We'll get into it later in this thing talking about Guardian ranks, but Guardian ranks is the one for me at the moment that I'm looking at. I think we're going to get this in Lightfall and it'll be interesting, but I bet that's a dramatically different looking system in even 2 seasons from now or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But regardless, we'll just, some of that is definitely, like we said a couple times, it's just a wait and see. There's just so much stuff, and we're literally, again, hours away, so we'll just have to start seeing stuff.
Fuck, dude. I forgot we were hours away. That's how deep in this I was.
Yeah, I know. More activities are getting the surge, threat, and overcharge weapon treatments. Let me just go through these kind of quickly here. Lost sectors are going to get 1 overcharged weapon, 2 surges, and the threats will be dependent on what dependent on which lost sector it is. So whatever lost sector it is, it'll have a specific threat. The combatants are harder to stagger, have more health. Again, Legend and Master difficulties. Combatant lost sectors feature plus 20 combat. Doesn't mean you can over level it by 20. So that's interesting that you can do that in those. I guess that's maybe because they want to keep it in.
Thank God.
They want to maybe keep. Yeah, that's probably because they want to keep it in a realm
I don't
where
need
like
this activity getting harder.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Because like it seems like what they're positioning this as ultimately. Because another thing they've said, which I think is somewhere in this.
It's in the rewards part.
It's actually in this part too. There will be additional paths requiring Lightfall exotic armors that you can discover on 228. So it seems like they're moving away from like I think they said it in the I think we talked about it last week as well, where like they're moving away from the initial source of getting a new exotic in the game being like go run like the Legend Lost sector for the first time, or what probably most people do is this horde legendary exotic Ingrams in their thing that try to get them
charged
right away. I mean, so like I think they're trying to intentionally move away from that and just let people like naturally get them as they play the game.
Yeah,
but what they can probably do that is like maybe the rolls from those aren't the greatest, so maybe you want to go back into a Legend or Master Lock sector to try and get a better roll of it. Now I think that's a good thing to do, but I still think they need some kind of extra thing to like weigh what exotics you're seeing.
Yes.
Because like if you can't, because of it right now, like your player like me or you who literally has every exotic from the first year of Destiny 2 to the ones that came last season, like you have like even if it's just arms week, you have like 20 different arm exotics you can get on any given class. So like it can be tricky trying to just get the one you need. So
I would love a system similar to what they had in D1. Xur used to sell an item called a 3 of coins. This is post Taken King, where every boss you beat had a accumulating chance to drop an exotic until it eventually did, and then it would consume the 3 of coins.
Yeah, actually, I think there used to be something like that in even Destiny 2.
Yeah, there might have been. It'd be cool if like they combined that. Like, remember the old school Nightfall card that you would get from Xur? That would like you would choose the modifiers for the Nightfall in, and that would dictate how hard it would be. Combine that with like the idea of a 3 of coins, and it's like you can choose modifiers in it to dictate what exotics that you would get from running lost sectors.
Yeah, that'd be cool
at the end. There's plenty of room for them to figure stuff out there. I'm
definitely
sure they'll figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. I think they'll figure something out. They're definitely leaning towards that because it seems like they're positioning these as the like run these a bunch to try and get better rolls of the exotics you maybe have already gotten.
But also, when we did get eventually the rewards update, they'll also drop 2 enhancement cores and a medium chance of 1 more, and 1 enhancement prism with a chance of 1 more as well. So that's like immediately becomes a very good resource farm.
Yep.
At the very least. So that makes me want to run it more than the exotics, honestly.
Yeah, because you can just farm prisms and cores and stuff. Yeah, it's good. Good change.
Good change.
So Nightmare hunts, Empire hunts, and campaign weekly missions are getting 1 overcharged weapon, 2 weekly rotating surges, threats depending on the type of activity, and then the difficulties, the difficulty challenge tiers will have the power discrepancies as well. So here we'll have -5, Legend will have -15, Master will have -20. It's interesting that these are getting them now. I'm curious if they have plans to make these relevant, because like Empire, who's running Empire hunts and Nightmare hunts these days? Not many, right? So I'm curious if they maybe have like they're maybe gonna incorporate these back into like the Power and Pinnacle grind or something, or
or potentially incorporate them into the Vanguard Ops playlist.
But yeah, potentially. Yeah, and then like the weekly mission stuff, I would assume like they didn't say which queen weekly missions, they said weekly missions. So I bet we maybe get like a similar playlist like that for Lightfall. That'd 100%. Be really cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool if like maybe Final Shape comes around and we can finally combine that into like a playlist. I would.
That's really the dream I would have is like even going beyond that, and making it like how they're doing the exotic mission rotator, have a weekly mission rotator where it is like here's missions from Witch Queen, Lightfall, Final Shape, and all of the other expansions from Destiny. Like here's some pull like they don't have to bring back every single one, but maybe bring out like a best of like some Red War missions, best of Forsaken missions, and like the Keep and Beyond Light missions are technically still in the game, so they could maybe just incorporate and just have this massive like story playlist. You can just play those missions and like get maybe like particular rewards of some kind from.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yep,
maybe it'd be like
too.
a way to get the exotics from those expansions, right? Like you play a Beyond Light thing, maybe you can get Cloud Strike, whatever, etc.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Dares of Eternity and Wellspring are also getting 2 rotating or overcharged weapons, weekly rotating surges, 1 threat, and then the Legend and Master difficulties of those will have extinguished. And it doesn't say if these have the difficulty tiers here, but they may just stay as they are.
Dares previously was like normal or legend,
and I think Wellspring is also the same, or it's Wellspring or Master.
It's legend or master, I think.
Okay, got it.
Or hero or master or normal or master, whatever.
Right.
The Dares did not have extinguished before. That's like the bump you to orbit thing, but Wellspring did, so
right.
I don't think that's a huge change.
Yeah, and ultimately, I don't think there's too many people running Master Dares at this point, I feel like, but who knows?
Well, some people were definitely running it for the weekly pinnacle and stuff, so I think that'll come back in some way.
Yeah, potentially.
I've run many Master Wellsprings. I'll tell you about it. I got 2 Ascendant Alloys from one run once, and I felt very good.
Look at that. Big alloy grinder over here. So it's the seasonal Battlegrounds playlist. So as you know, we learned in the State of the Game blog, Battlegrounds are going to be the Season of Defiance activity. More Battlegrounds are coming.
Never been more appropriate.
yeah, for sure. They will have the -5 power level difficulty that they have right now. Like the Heist Battlegrounds have this season. They will have a weekly rotating surge, and it'll be the same as the Vanguard Ops playlist. There will be a rotating threat, no overcharged weapons. So there you go.
Interesting. That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Granted, I think you'll still have the overcharged weapons from having the champion perk things. I think that still applies, because I think at least how when we get to the section of the TWAB that talks about those perks, it states that in those anti-champion things. So I'm thinking that's just an addition to it being an anti-champion weapon. It is overcharged in any activity.
I thought it was any activity that had overcharge as a modifier.
Well, what it is the overcharge in the modifiers are different weapons that aren't the champion weapons. I think, at least that's what I think it is, where it's I think those will be different weapons, and then on top of whatever those weapons are, if you have anti-champion weapons, those are overcharged as well.
Okay, yes, I understand now.
Yeah.
No specific overcharged weapons in this Battlegrounds playlist, but champion weapons will.
Yeah, because I would do that. Exactly, because I assume if they are the Battlegrounds from this season, there will be champions in those.
Yeah, there's
things.
definitely gonna be champions. So
it makes sense where even though there's no overcharged weapons, you can run the anti-champion. You will run those anti-champion weapons already, and those will be overcharged in those playlists. Still,
yeah. Hopefully,
yeah. That's the hope. Is how that works. But yeah, again, they didn't initially, when they put a lot of this info out, they didn't state reward updates, and people were miffed by that. Granted, I kind of agree with the Nightfall aspect, and maybe even the some the master tier stuff, but I don't really think Vanguard Ops base level did not need to be rewarding in an interesting way. And again, really. I layered up the other things already, because it technically is still getting way more rewarding with cosmetic stuff and legacy focusing, but the Nightfall stuff is getting updated. It's mainly more focused on like updating currencies rather than giving you like more potential at, legendary weapons or exotic drops. Granted, a lot of this stuff at those tiers still gave you stuff like I'm still assuming, if you get platinum rewards on a Grandmaster Nightfall, you're going to get a bunch of the reward thing updates here, but you'll still probably get an exotic drop, adept weapons for whatever the adept weapon season for that season is. Like that stuff will be here too, but they're basically across the board for these difficulty tiers, upping the currencies that drop from them. So basically, for hero tier of Nightfalls, now you're guaranteed 1 prism, 2 enhancement cores, and both of them have a medium chance of giving you an additional one. So you're always guaranteed to get 1 enhancement prism and 2 cores for any hero Nightfall you complete. Legend, great. That's great stuff. Like giving guaranteed like drops.
Yes, thank you. Please.
It's good. It's very, very good change across the board. Bumping up to Legend tier will give you a small chance at an Ascendant Shard, and you'll always get 2 enhancement prisms. So there you go. Master will give you one Ascendant Shard and then 2 enhancement prisms, and both of them will have a little bit higher chances to give you additional ones as well. That is awesome that, you don't even have to do a Grandmaster Nightfall anymore to get an Ascendant Shard.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. And then Grandmaster Nightfalls will give you an Ascendant Shard with a high chance to give you more than just the 1 shard. So you're pretty much, I'm taking that as you probably will generally get 2.
Yeah, you're going to generally get 2. Yeah.
And then you will also get 4 enhancement prisms with a medium chance of getting 2 more on top of that. And that's just, and again, think of it as these are probably just base. So if you have a bonus double drop week, you're probably getting even more of this. You might be getting like 3 or 4 Ascendant Shards now from a Grandmaster Nightfall or something like that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, like 15 enhancement prisms.
Years like that, yeah. That's gonna be cool. I like that across the board.
Yeah.
I like that across the board. That's nice. Legend again, like so you said. Nice. Yeah, like you said, Legend Lost Sectors will have 2 enhancement prisms or 2 enhancement cores and an enhancement prism every time you do them. And then at Master difficulty, it'll be that still, but you'll have higher chances of getting additional ones. So you might have a chance to get like 3 prisms or 2 cores from a Master one. So that's pretty cool. Again, guaranteeing that you can just farm out some prisms or cores from those is pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah.
So
very needed.
Very needed. I agree. So that was kind of the main stuff from that bringing challenge back to Destiny article. Overall, again, I kind of already stated my feelings on it. Like, I kind of like all this stuff. I like that strikes are becoming they're trying to make strikes more engaging. Again, that was something I talked about weeks up in these various episodes of the podcast so far of strikes are a core part of this game. I get that there's people who want more out of Crucible and want more out of Gambit, but strikes have been the mainstay longer than a lot of that stuff is, in my opinion. Even as not a Destiny 1 veteran, strikes, I think strikes have needed something like this for a long time, and to see it finally kind of happening and knowing one of the big core things that is going to be refreshed over the course of this year post Lightfall are strikes is really nice. Seeing them go back to old ones that I've run hundreds of times with adding new encounters, adding new mechanics to them. That's pretty wild. That's more than I ever thought they would do. And I'm happy they are doing it. I'm happy that like you said, there will strikes can now more properly feel like an area where it's I just want to try out this build. Oh, this new exotic came out, or I saw this YouTuber X or Y's build. Is this actually worth doing or not doing? We'll see. And then I can feel like I can make that build and go into a strike and actually get a meaningful play session out of seeing if this is worth it, rather than hoping having to do some weird backwards thing, or maybe go into some weird lost sector to see if this is even worthwhile to use. I like that they're bringing them up across the board as somebody who's regular to it, and I get it. You know, there's again. Here comes my. I'm pushing up my glasses for audio viewers. My elitist
comes out.
My elitist take on this to an extent. Like, if you're somebody who like reads all this stuff and is like disappointed the game's getting quote unquote harder, like, oh, like, sorry, like, I understand, you know, everyone has different times and availabilities to do this, but clearly they're doing it, which means there's probably, just like, you know, you would probably argue that they shouldn't design the game for the top 1% of 1%, like world's first running racers. You know, if you're somebody who's like, you know, can only put like maybe like an hour a week into this game and can't like, you know, and has like, you know, can't or is not willing to like maybe make that full investment for various reasons, like they can't design the game around you either. They have to design around the middle, which are like probably people more like us who like actively are playing multiple nights a week, playing for a few hours upon hours. Like there clearly is enough of us. Like they're clearly making these changes. There's clearly enough of us in this playing this game actively to like support making all of these grand changes, right? So like in that same way, like, you know, you kind of just have to accept it for what it is. Like if you're kind of on either of those spectrums, you know, they can't really fully make the game about you. And
yeah.
So,
and I also, to like to add on to that, I think like I wonder. I know Destiny has been we've described it like when I have been on like other podcasts and things and talked to people about Destiny, and there's like this level of intimidation with it, right? The people that we said would like, you know, sometimes Destiny are just friends that want to get on and run some strikes and hang out and talk. Like, I understand the feeling that like this is making the game less for you, but I think like what it is saying is you should engage with this game on the level that it wants you to, because you're going to have a better time.
Yeah.
And there's like so much like to talk about what we're excited about. Just in general, like I am way more excited to run Nightfalls. Like I never do the Nightfall ever.
I never really did either. Yeah.
Because like I don't generally, if I don't have to, I'm not going to engage with certain champion content because I don't want to have to switch stuff around. But like the first thing at the top of all this was like, oh, now subclasses are going to be able to stagger champions, right?
Yep.
Like that on its own makes the idea of running a Nightfall like way chiller at the very least, right?
Yeah.
Even though the base difficulty Nightfall is now going to have champions in it, right? That is a bummer for some people, but like having that built-in stuff is going to force people to learn it more, I think.
Yeah.
And engage with it more. And again, I don't have to switch my mods to be ready for champions because they're just passively on the guns I was probably using already.
Yeah. You don't have to slot in artifact mods anymore to counter that. They're just perks now that you just unlock. And then all it is equipping a weapon, or like you said, it is now just equipping a subclass that has those things and like making a build. You can literally like there's at this point now, or like, you know, like more so in a few weeks. If you are somebody who like has not taken the time up to this point and like plays Destiny and doesn't want to like do champion stuff because you don't want to like learn this specific thing, like they are putting systems in the game now that like are going to make you engage with it more, but also make it so you can engage with it a little bit and then never think about it again because you just make a loadout and then just, you know, and then just roll with it. Like, like as long as you do that, like you're probably fine. And like that's why I'm like, it's like I was getting so irksome about like people being so up in arms about the game getting more difficult. It's like, no, it's really not getting that much more difficult. It's just trying to push people to like engage with the things in this game more, because there are really cool things in this game now. Yeah, the game is like people probably engage with Destiny for so long as this thing that was just like again, like I said, gun feel good. It's Halo. It's the Halo people. Gun good, shoot good, feel good. Where like Destiny has evolved like beyond that, and you have so many cool abilities that work together. Like, it is not just about like,
it's an RPG.
Yeah, it's not just about like, oh, I'm running the purple class, so I shoot a big purple ball, and that's all you really need to know. Like, now, like, there's so much more to it, and like learning that stuff is worth doing because like it adds so much more interesting
it's the best
aspects
part of the
to
game.
the game. It has now become the best part of the game. Yes.
Yeah.
So like, I really hope this has the right effect. And like, another part we haven't seen about this is like how much Guardian Ranks plays into like teaching these things, which like I admittedly think like it won't be the perfect solution to maybe teaching everything, because ultimately it looks like it is just kind of like sets of challenges and things to like kind of check off rather than just like more like tutorializing stuff. Like, but we'll again, just things like a lot of these things we just have to kind of start seeing and playing, and we are so close. I just hope it works.
Yeah, so please just like don't crash it on day one. Ultimately, I think what we're both saying is you'll be fine.
Yes. You'll be fine. Like, I don't think they've suddenly made it like this. Like, people consider like, there's definitely been chatter about people considering Destiny like this impenetrable video game sometimes, and it's like certain aspects I 100% agree, but I think just sitting down and playing and
this
shooting,
isn't the part of it.
This is not part of it that is impenetrable to me, in my opinion, anymore. Like, it is. There's a lot of other things that make it impenetrable, but not this anymore. But yeah, that's the whole discussion around the difficulty changes coming to Destiny, which I think will really not be that big of a deal. I would not be surprised if this was a thing that people made a big deal about, and then like 2 weeks from now we like completely forgot it was a thing.
Yeah, you'll be yelling about Strand on the internet. Don't worry, you'll have other things you'll be upset about.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of things people probably are going to be upset about at some point in Destiny, the TWAB came. We got some information in that. We got some Crucible updates. That's right. I'm gonna go through them quickly. Like, look, y'all. Like, if you listen to a couple episodes now, you know we are not the PvP people to like come to for opinions.
If you listen to last week, maybe I am. Maybe I am toxic.
Maybe I am. Maybe. They talked about some competitive quality of life changes for the competitive division stuff. I didn't list everything here, admittedly, because there was actually a decent amount of stuff. But like, I think the big things are the placement. If you're this will be like the first season that we're coming out of doing placement stuff. So now we're going into a new season. They have said if you are you can now place in Platinum Division after your initial placement series matches if you were Adept or Ascendant in the previous season. So basically, if you're either of those, I think you'll start at Platinum and then you can kind of work back up to those if you would want to. They're changing some of the map and mode weighting for you, as in like how much they appear or don't appear. Rift and Showdown are being lowered, but still will be there, and they're bringing up Survival as a little bit more often in those playlists. So it'll still be those three modes. You just might see a little bit less Rift and Showdown. They are removing Disjunction and Cathedral of Dusk from the map rotation entirely, which I know people will be stoked about because, like, that was even admittedly, again, I'm by no means a PvP expert, but those two maps are like freaking huge. So like having 3v3s on those maps like was really weird because I don't think those are in Trials, right?
They haven't been in.
Yeah, I don't think they show up in Trials because like they don't make sense.
Yeah, it's a specific map, and that's just not one that's ever come up. So
yeah,
neither of them.
So yeah, they're taking those two out essentially from that. But I think the biggest thing they're introducing, we're to skip down to I think the big thing, which is they're adding a new modifier to Trials in competitive division called Not Swap. And so what Not Swap does is if you change a piece of exotic armor you're wearing during the match, all of your ability energy is removed, just like if you swapped a subclass. And like they basically kind of went over like, hey, if you were playing PvP, you knew like a popular thing to do is how they described it as like when you're playing neutral, you're just using some general exotic that kind of helps you in PvP. But then when you get your super, you're swapping to a super buffing exotic to kind of have an advantage. That's how it works in the game now. People have been doing it for quite some while. They've just kind of straight up just said, like, we don't really like that as like a thing to have an advantage over people. And especially now in a world where we have loadouts with even quicker swapping, potentially we just don't want that in the game anymore to that degree. So now this modifier will be on those activities where, pick your exotics more wisely is basically what they're saying.
Yeah, this is smart. I was like, oh yeah, because they're adding a fucking button where you can switch an entire loadout.
Just press a single click and you're just doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense because like it still gives you those options, and like and it still leaves open like the thing of like if you wanted to, if you're in a match and you're kind of more into it than I would say either of us are, but and you're having a difficult time in the match, you can still at least like swap weapons around and be like, okay, maybe this person's using this weapon, maybe I can use this to counter that. Like it still leaves that open, that kind of strategy open. Yeah. And I think that strategy makes more sense, right? Where like
you can swap right at the beginning too, like if it's something that you need to. It's like it makes it more of a strategic move instead of like a late game thing that could happen.
Yeah. So I think those are like the biggest things there for the Crucible updates. They also mentioned that there will be a bigger Crucible in general blog later this season. So that'll be a thing to look forward to for PvP folks, as they will have a more Crucible focused blog in the future, probably talking about updates to that and maybe some other things like that. But now let's get into the actual juice that was in the TWAB. And
they spicy stuff.
Yeah, they basically just gave us what the entire artifact mod / perk things we are getting this season with
perk
season
tree,
20.
your seasonal skill tree.
Yeah, it is basically a seasonal skill tree now. You're right.
I saw that somebody posted that on Twitter. It's a very good way to describe it, and it makes it like
I agree.
More Diablo-like in that kind of way because they have seasons and stuff too. It's very cool.
Yeah, I like it as well. So I'll go quickly through some of these right now. So we have all of our anti-champion weapons here. We have anti-barrier sidearm and pulse rifles, overload bows, unstopped scout rifles, and then auto rifles and submachine guns will be overload again as well because they were as well this season. So again, they will be those anti-champion weapons. That also means when you have one of these perks, any of those kinds of weapons will get that 25% overcharge bonus.
That's so awesome.
That's pretty wild. And like, think of like you said, like what is some exotics this includes? This includes what this includes pulse rifles, so you could have something like Outbreak or
Forerunner, anti-barrier Forerunner.
Collective Obligation will be a pulse. I guess it's like technically Void, but it's I guess anti-barrier doesn't matter because that's overcharging it. So I think that would still give it that 25%. Right?
Yeah, it would Outbreak. Yeah.
The only thing I'm curious about
overload
is bows. Yeah, so like Trinity Ghoul, Tiku's Divination.
Yeah, Trinity Ghoul.
I wonder if the weapon's already intrinsic, like the exotic's already intrinsic anti-champion. I wonder if that overcharges it as well. I'm curious how that works, because that would mean stuff like La Monarch.
Monarch. I think so. If it's part of the perk, I think it is. If it's like what's it? The fusion, not fusion, the trace rifle, not Cold Heart. I want to say Cold Heart, but Aegir's Scepter, yes. That has anti-champion because it can slow and freeze, but it is not intrinsic anti-champion.
Right.
It's not in the description. At least maybe they will update the description to mention that.
Yeah, maybe. Like how that works exactly. And then automatic overload. That means like Osteostrika is going to be really good with that next season. There'll just be like obviously like general like legendary weapons like will be really strong with that as well. I like that a lot. that's
Kalos SMG just will always be
good.
25%.
Kalos mini tool, yeah, seriously, like all of those are really good.
That does like make the idea of running certain dungeons, depending, like way more enjoyable.
Yeah,
on Master Mode.
That could be really cool. The next column of mods has like an interesting new kind of idea for mods, or I guess perks. They said they basically are called authorized mods, and they're basically like looping in mods that affect a certain subclass or energy type will have reduced costs when you have one of these perks selected, and so they will have ones for solar, strand, void, and there will also be a grenade one where it's just overall grenade, whatever. If the mod has dealing with some kind of grenade, it will lower the cost of that mod outright, which I think that's a really interesting idea.
It's really cool, yeah. Because especially we know we're getting like solar reloaders, so just reloading the weapon of any of your solar weapons will be faster as opposed to equipping fusion rifle reloader or things like that.
Right.
Or the auto loading, solar auto loading, strand auto loading. So this is definitely really interesting. Like I imagine a lot of those are going to cost 2, and now they'll go down to 1.
Right.
But that certainly frees up more space for those more potent armor mods.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really, really cool idea. I like that a lot. And then they have another mod that's in that called multi-siphon mods, and this basically grants access to armor mods in your helmet that combines the effects of the strand siphon mod with the solar and the void siphon mod. So it's basically like all of the burns or surges rather for the season will have a singular mod. So I'm guessing siphon is that making orbs? Isn't that what that is now? I believe so.
It's like harmonic siphon.
Yeah. That's
splitting,
pretty wild that you will just be able to have this singular mod, basically singular mod, like how we have it. We have it this season where like there's like the mod that makes it so you take less damage from all 3 different sources as an artifact mod on your chest. This is like a similar idea, but now it's just it combines
for making orbs.
It combines strand, solar, and siphon, and you can just make orbs off of that stuff fairly easily.
The question I have is, are those siphon mods like if you're running that subclass, or are they if you're using that weapon? Because then you could be running like a void heavy weapon and a solar primary weapon, and they're both making orbs.
Yeah,
which is pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. It makes sense too, because like now we're not making like wells and stuff to activate those like armor, like elemental wells or mods or whatever. Now it's just armor charge across the board. So like it makes sense that they have more ways to like make more orbs to like feed into builds and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So besides that, we have the next column. I shortened this one because there was a couple in here that were like, hey, this is going to be, this increases the potency of like the origin traits for some weapons, which you've already talked about, but like, they were like, pretty standard mods for the seasons now at this point.
Yeah. We heard a couple of new ones, but we don't know what to do.
Yeah. And I have some of them still listed in later on that we can talk about.
Okay.
So the first perk we had here was Shatter Orbs. So the first time you break a combatant's shield, you create an orb of power. If you break the shield with the matching damage type. So if you break a shield, make an orb. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Solar Surge, collecting a fire sprite gives you armor charge. So that'd be pretty useful on probably solar subclasses for sure. Volatile Flow is returning. Picking up more power grants you void weapons. Considering we're making a lot more orbs probably than even when we were before. That is probably going to be really good.
Yeah, it's back, baby. It's so good. But now with orbs.
This will probably be pretty strong this season. Yeah. Void in general, like as we'll get deeper in here and talk about void stuff, more stuff. It seems like void, at least to me personally, it's gonna be really strong. But again, who knows? Strain has definitely the potential to
Strain's
just kind of come
busted,
out of nowhere.
But void's gonna be very strong.
yeah, exactly. Next set of perks here starts with Bricks from Beyond. Defeating a powerful combatant with a void weapon has a chance to generate heavy ammo for you and your fire team. That seems really good. Because you can literally, pair that with volatile flow, put volatile rounds, and you're just mowing down enemies, and just bricks could come popping out of any of those enemies that are dying from that weapon and volatile flow.
Wild.
That's going to be probably a really good mod.
Yeah, and it means again it just frees up another helmet slot, right?
Yeah.
Although it seems like the helmet mods are changing to be heavy ammo finder and special ammo finder, from what I could tell from some images.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to run. It's not going to be split up because, again, why? Because they're all going to be the same cost.
Yeah.
So it's just another thing you don't have to run, which I wonder what those potent things you can run in this place would be.
Yeah, for sure. Next perk up is Flare Up. Firebolt grenades apply more scorch stacks. Damaging a combatant with a firebolt grenade spawns a fire sprite near them. So that could be interesting. It definitely seems like we'll get into some other mods of this. They definitely are trying to get people to run firebolt grenades.
Do you know how much scorch firebolt grenades cause?
Right now, I don't know for sure, because like firebolt grenades are like the ones I've like never really used. So it seems like they're intentionally trying to like push for them because they know probably a lot of people don't really use them. Everyone just kind of uses solar grenades, right? Because they're just like kind of the best.
Of course, what's it? Fusion grenades.
Fusion grenades too, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be a weird world where you're double tapping firebolt grenades, as we'll hear later, and it causing ignition.
That's totally possible for sure. Then we have Origin Hones. This weapons with noble deeds, nano tracing rockets, text bound stock, and ambush orange traits are always overcharged when the modifier is active. So there you go. That literally makes probably the Season of Defiance weapons, the Neomuna weapons, the dungeon weapons from this season, Spiral of the Watcher, and the Season 19 Seraph weapons. All of them can be overcharged just with this single perk.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lord. This is wild.
That's insane. But I mean, I think that's what they said, right? Like their intention with like this stuff was to make perks way more potent stuff in this, because you can only have 12 total at a time. You can reset it for free. You can only have 12 at a time. So, there's a lot of potentially really good things to pull from this. It's kind of wild. So here we get a couple of some strand ones coming this season. So the first one is Allied Unraveling. Rapid final blows with a strand weapon grants your weapon unraveling rounds with a longer duration near allies. So unraveling rounds is another thing we've heard of.
We talked about it last week.
So yeah, I believe it is strong against barrier champions.
Yeah.
So this makes it sound like there will be a way to get unraveling rounds by itself, but we do not know anything really about unraveling rounds yet.
Yeah.
Other than we know unravel is like a perk, is a thing that
it's a verb, yeah.
Is a verb for strand. But we don't really know how we're getting unraveling rounds besides this, but I'm assuming there will be a way to do that. So that'll be very interesting to see like which class ends up being like the unraveling character, whoever that ends up being. I don't know.
Maybe
that's the Titan, and then the sleeper. This whole time Titan was like the best class.
Potentially, I will say this was something when I read this initially of like, this feels like they don't know how busted this is going to be.
or they do, and they're just like, yes, let
maybe
the world burn.
Volatile rounds were crazy busted that first season of Witch Queen, and were super fun. So
yep, for sure. So then another strand one we're getting is called Counterweave. When you or a member of your fire team stuns or defeats a champion, you gain energy for the least charged strand ability. So there you go. That could be.
That's cool.
Could be an interesting one. And then we have the final set of perks, which are always some of the strongest ones. So these definitely have some. There's definitely some interesting ones in here for sure. So there's Stranded Reach. Destroying a tangle with a strand weapon creates a larger and more damaging explosion. Definitely curious how strong that is. We don't even know how strong just a normal strand explosion is with the tangles. So have to see. So that could be really cool. And we know that like that can proc other things like destroying tangles on like a warlock can make threadlings, and destroying tangles on other enemies might do other things, right?
Yeah.
Very curious for sure. Then we have Rain of Firebolts. When you have a firebolt grenade equipped, you gain a second grenade charge for firebolts. You have 2 firebolt grenades. It's like you said. I'm sure there's something to that. Like I'm sure it is just going to be like a maybe if you use 2 of them, you will get that ignition if you have the flare up thing together, or maybe it's just going to do like crazy damage. I guess we won't really know until we see that. That could be very interesting.
An artifact perk that gives 2 ability charges is like completely new territory and crazy wild.
Definitely a new world with that stuff for sure. Pretty cool.
You could run Solar Warlock with Claws of Ahamkara and have 2 melees and 2 grenades and be out of control, which sounds so fun.
Yeah, that could be really cool. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think of that. That
Infinite Scorch.
All scorching all the time. Yeah, that could be really interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of here for that. So yeah, Void. We'll move on to the next perk we have, Void Weapons Channeling. You gain a temporary bonus to void weapon damage after defeating a target with a void weapon while at least one of your void abilities is fully charged. Damage bonus increases based on the number of fully charged void abilities you have. Jesus.
What is this?
Lord.
This is wild.
Yeah.
Now you know why they nerfed the fucking heavy machine gun in volatile rounds last season.
Yeah.
It's like, shit, we can't let this. This would be too busted.
This would be too crazy. But I'm thinking of something like there's the void machine gun exotic that's coming this season. Like that could make that insane. Like,
yeah, true.
Because you're like, if you have just get a kill with that. It busts its damage. Have all your abilities up. It's doing even more damage, and then you're like I think it's like the 4th bullet like weakens a target, and then you're doing even more damage because you're hitting a weakened target. And then you're hitting volatile. Like that thing could be pretty. That thing has the potential to be pretty nuts. Like a void, like you could do some crazy stuff with a void rocket and like a void weapon, like get a kill with a void, like have like a void like weapon, like SMG or whatever like primary secondary weapon and get kills with that. Then swap to like a void damage weapon, like a rocket or some other thing, and like probably do a lot of damage with that. Yeah.
You want to know how much damage Deathbringer does with this?
Yeah, Deathbringer. Good. I'm gonna also bust out Leviathan's breath, baby, and just
yes, it's time.
Yeah,
it's getting a fucking like 20% buff.
Yeah,
it's gonna be nuts.
That thing's gonna be crazy in GMs. Good lord, because it has unstop, which that means there's like. Does that mean
unstop and volatile built in? Yeah.
Does that make that like overcharge rate so it's even getting more damage technically? Because it's like that's the thing I want to know is because like they didn't really talk about it here. And actually, I don't know if this was in. I think this was in I forgot to pull it. I think from the TWAB where they talked about stunning champions and stuff and like clarified that stuff. So yeah, I didn't pull that from that. Let me.
I have it pulled up.
Okay, if you have that pulled up, because they did clarify like how some of the like procking of things worked with the now world of like the verbs will do things. So go ahead and kind of say what they say.
So they use as like with intrinsic anti-champion, they bring up Ariana's Vow, Divinity, and Leviathan's Breath as their examples. So those have intrinsic, and it seems like the only thing that supersedes an intrinsic perk is Radiant. If you are Radiant because of a Solar Hunter, use Acrobat Dodge near you, shoot anti-barrier rounds until the weapon wears off. One example, Aeger's Scepter will slow and stun an Overload champion, but not pierce a barrier one, even if the player is Radiant. Okay, so those... It seems like Radiant is not going to work on something like Leviathan's Breath. And volatile rounds aren't either. It seems like if it's like got its intrinsic thing, it's not going to change.
Right.
Just like how, when we had Overload Bow, Wish Ender couldn't also do Overload.
Yeah, because it has base. Yeah, it is like how the game works right now, where like the things.
Yeah.
If they're intrinsic to an anti-champion thing, they will always do that over whatever anything else. Is applying to them. But that also, but then they go on to clarify, like the verbs supersede perks that proc stuff.
Yes.
Because they talk about a chill clip specifically, because we talked about it before in a previous episode, like Riptide, like it's how we thought it would work is Riptide would be able to slow with an initial shot, which would stun an overload. Then the second shot would freeze, which would stun an unstoppable. But if you were also radiant on top of that, you could pierce anti-champion stuff. But now it seems like if you get radiant, you will pierce pierce a barrier champion, but like slowing the slowing effects would not. This would stun a overload champion or vice or whatever. Yeah, if you have
it says that
buff.
Specifically. Yeah, while radiant, though, the same weapon would pierce barrier champions, but not stun overloads. So legendary weapons without intrinsics are different.
Yeah. So basically, it sounds like the tier is exotics that have intrinsic are top, and those will always be what they do. Then then there's the verbs and what they do, and applying the verbs to legendary weapons will supersede what any of those perks would do. But is basically how I'm kind of reading that. Essentially,
yeah,
like
if
you apply volatile to, I mean, I guess you can only apply volatile currently to like void weapons, but if you applied, but I'm assuming, well, that's interesting, because then I wonder, like, there's a scenario where you could be radiant and have volatile at the same time, or is that possible? I guess it is.
Yeah, it's possible.
So I wonder
like
how
a hunter came up to you.
Yeah, I think, did the dodge. Yeah, I wonder how that would work then.
I think there's probably a second tier list for the subclass verbs. And I would bet Radiant is going to supersede all of them because it is the strongest buff.
Right.
But I bet there will be a lot of testing to figure this out.
Yeah. I'm
so much is changing.
So much is changing. And, like, I could see, like, again, going back to, like, being a new player, that's going to be confusing.
Sure.
to like, stuff. Like,
luckily, it's specific things, right? Like, you're not probably going to know what Chill Clip does, like, out the gate. So it's probably not going to, like, get to you.
Yeah, exactly. Much, right? It's gonna turn into people like staying away from or being mad when they see a Solar Hunter on their team because he's gonna be flipping around and being radiant. It's like, now I'm radiant, I can't stun this champion. He screwed up my stun. Like, so it's gonna be that scenario. Like, that'd be pretty funny.
These are like math freaking equations, because now I'm thinking like Wave Splitter, which can suppress, which can stun unstoppable champions, is also a void weapon, so you could pick up an Orb of Power and make Wave Splitter volatile and shoot volatile
how does
rounds.
That work?
And
exactly.
what happens then? Yeah, so
exactly.
We have questions.
Yeah.
We don't have answers.
Yeah, we don't know this stuff specifically yet. Like, yeah,
fascinating stuff.
If you suspend a champion, okay, no, I won't go there. And then it's like that stuff is gonna have to be worked out for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. The thing is, again, what we're trying to say is you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Like, it really, I don't think it'll be a big deal.
This is a very cool void perk, though. I can't.
Yeah, that'll be super fun.
Because this presumably will stack with Surging and Singe and whatever, or threats, you know. Yeah. So
it's gonna make when the void surge is up, it's gonna make. That's going to be like, all right, it's Void Surge week, and this GM is up. All right, let's farm the shit out of this. That's what it's going to become now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So our next one, I know this one got you perked up. Medieval Champion. Glaives you wield fire a powerful explosive payload that stuns unshielded combatants, so it's strong against unstoppable champions. So there you go. Additionally, glaives are always overcharged when the modifier is active. Landing consecutive hits with a sword disrupts combatants, stunning them, delaying ability energy and regeneration, and lowering combat damage output. Strong against overload champions, and additionally, swords are always overcharged. So there you go. Overcharged swords and glaives this season as well with this final champion perk. Yeah, that is pretty cool.
The only bummer is that it's not in the fourth column; it's in the fifth. So I'm gonna have to reset my artifact probably a lot.
Yeah, right. Well, but think of the scenario where you have void weapon channeling and medieval champion together.
Oh yeah.
And you have an Enigma glaive that can just freaking you're gonna be a murder machine with that thing. Like, wow.
Yeah, it's
especially
and I
especially
wonder if
like anti-champion stuff like that's gonna be really strong.
Yeah, I wonder if the melee will also get the buff. Usually,
true. Good point.
The surging or whatever. Overcharge.
Yes, that might that's a good point. So yeah, that might not be
if it
strong.
Does though.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And I'm pretty sure there was, I don't remember what it was called, but I'm pretty sure there was a sword mod. Like they basically combined two mods together that were this. Were
Overload sword before.
There's like the different one that like did this as well. So that's pretty cool. And the last one, prismatic transfer. When you cast your super, each member of your fire team with a subclass damage type different than yours gains a bonus to weapon damage. That's
so cool.
It's an interesting idea. That sounds like a potential raid boss DPS like thing to like try out. Like all right, we have our warlock or whatever warlock, and then everybody else just runs something else. You know what I mean? Just like everyone else go on like void or
everyone else runs strand.
Everyone go on strand. Yep, and then go off. Well, it'd be a weapon, but still go off with whatever crazy exotic you have. Get your rockets or whatever out.
Yeah, super cool.
So
Love it.
a lot of cool perks across the board. Again, they are perks now. I'm pretty sure I said this at the top, but again, just to reiterate, now this stuff will just be unlocked passively. So like when you pick up these things, it won't be I get one and then I have to like go find where I slot the mod in. It'll just be passively applied to your character. So like you said, it is basically now like a skill tree, seasonal skill tree rather than a perk. And then you can pick 12 of them total across all of these. And then like you can reset it at any time for free to like respec and pick different ones out. I kind of hope that this is like a pretty minimal thing overall since it is free. But I wouldn't mind if they kept this thing where like you essentially like unlock them all still, but you just then pick the ones you want.
Yeah, turn them on and off basically.
Yeah, exactly.
They did. There was definitely a comment by Cosmo on Reddit that I saw that was like, "That is good feedback, and we have heard you." So I would not be surprised if that makes its way into the artifact a couple seasons from now. But yeah,
for sure.
For sure, a good idea. Yeah, the only other thing you didn't have it in here was in the Become Legend section of the TWAB they mentioned, and I'll just break off a piece of this TWAB for you. In the Lightfall campaign, we reduced the health scaler on combatants to better balance solo and fire team play when compared to last year's legendary campaign. Enemies will still have more overall health in larger fire teams, and the Cabal in general have higher base health than other combatant factions, but this will help bring solo and fire team difficulty closer together. Additionally, the damage required to stagger combatants is reduced during the Lightfall campaign. Not a huge deal, but thank God.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be interesting to see if we can like feel the difference. It's been a while since I played like a legendary campaign thing. Like, I played plenty of Grandmaster Nightfalls. But yeah, I'm cool with this. Like, I definitely remember in particular, mainly like that final Savathun fight was definitely not like a slog would be the right word, but it was tough. It was tough. So maybe like bring it like a notch or two down. I'm cool with that.
Eliminating one of those 4 damage phases it took us, I am totally fine with.
Yeah. For sure. But we'll have to see who we're fighting in the finale of Lightfall soon here. We could probably figure it out, like, and have an assumption here, but who knows? But that does it for the blog stuff. We have a couple videos here. I don't want to get too in the weeds with this stuff because again, we are hours away. And if you're at this point in the podcast, I feel like it's a strong assumption on my part maybe, but I would assume you've probably watched all this stuff already. You probably have seen the launch trailer for Lightfall that dropped during the State of Play earlier this week. There's 2 other cool videos that were like developer insights that are a little bit more of a deep dive into the like certain aspects, like they talk Strand a little bit more. They showed a little more Strand game. They showed a little bit more gameplay here and there. I don't think I can't immediately think of too many things that we saw in that one, particularly that was like vastly different from what we've seen. Like I think you did mention already. The one thing was we see a hunter do a suspend dive, and it straight up threads up a freaking unstoppable champion. He's like threaded up like the enemy. It makes like the stunning sound and everything, so that clearly like stuns him. That's really that was very fun and cathartic to see. But I also
it's very cathartic.
Yes, it was very cathartic to see. But also I'm fearful of now having I shared a clip of it. I'll see if I can put the clip in the actual thing of me running Nightfalls with my clan earlier this week, and in one of my clanmates doing a finisher on a Cabal unstopped champion, and his backpack still exploding in his finish, murdering me, all three of us in a single explosion. You know,
yeah. It do be like that sometimes.
It do be like that sometimes, so I just have the fear of like seeing a Cabal threaded up like that. We're just like, haha, gotcha, motherfucker, and then we shoot him, and then he still explodes, and everyone just
still blows you up.
Everyone just blows up with him, and it's just like, dang, they'll stay away from the suspended Cabal, everyone.
In that same clip where we see the Cabal boy get suspended very cathartically, you can see that the strand dive does consume the hunter's class ability.
Right.
So that also answers a long-standing
and the thing
that
I'm sure I think I think Bungie definitely learned their lesson from Shatter Dive to not make that like a free ability thing anymore. And that makes
free suspension for everyone.
Yeah, free suspension for everybody. So that makes sense for them for that, because that you can get the class back pretty quickly. So
yeah.
And it makes sense for generally the hunter is already always building into like mobility / getting that class ability back quickly on most of the classes anyway. So I'm cool with that. Another thing is you could see I noticed too, looking at that, you can freeze frame and see that is part of at least if not one or the Neomuna strike. You can see it says Nightfall in the corner there, where you see like little mission objective while he's doing that. So that's cool. See a very, very brief little clip of that in there.
Yes, restore power to Neomuna's defenses is the objective.
Yeah.
Which sounds about
interesting. Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. Again, other than that though, they just they talked about stuff we've seen a lot of already. Like Strain looks really cool. Grappling. Can't wait to start messing around with it.
The sound design team killing it as always.
Yeah, there's some fun little scenes of them doing like sound stuff where they like were rubbing their hands across like saran wrap, like stretched out across a room,
pulling tape off of it, which was great.
they had like some kind of like, I don't know what it was, inside of a tied up balloon, blown up balloon, and they were like swirling it around. And like makes like the rope swinging sound on the Hunter Super, like so like fun little clips in there like that I definitely really liked.
I rewatched the Stasis one this week, and they did a similar thing for Stasis. I love that stuff so much.
Yeah, shout out to that breast pump from
yes.
that was pretty cool. Then we had the villain. They had another insights where they talked more about Callus and the Witness. They kind of did more, I think, in there that, like, again, I was kind of alluding to it. I think in that video in particular, I'm not remembering the exact wording, but they more or less said, like, what you could kind of surmise from this whole expansion was, like, we're probably not fighting the Witness at the end. We're probably fighting Callus at the end. Like, this seems to be more of an expansion about Callus to an extent. And the Witness is kind of doing nefarious things in the background. But yeah, I'm cool with that. That seems Callus is like one of my favorite Destiny antagonists / villains / cool dudes. I'm gonna call Callus a cool dudes. No one can stop me.
I'll allow it. He did write fan fiction about us destroying the universe
fan fiction about Guardians. He's all these for so long he was just trying to party and have a good time because it's the end of the world. And what are you going to do about it anyway? That was the whole thing with Leviathan the first time, and I always loved that aspect of it. That he was just,
and now he's here to bring it. He's here to bring the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And now he just wants the world to fucking end. So we'll see the dark turn he's taken here for sure.
And he looks great.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, I know. Like everyone's like joking about the bucket head, but I think seeing him,
I love it.
And like now we've seen like in the Vidoc and these more recent trailers, we've seen like his full glory when he has like all these very elaborate medals and things all over, and he's like his arm and legs are like painted gold or like are just gold or something now. He looks amazing. I really like his new look.
You're gonna have to shoot those gold spots to do damage, I bet.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. I like that a lot. Yeah, and then we have the launch trailer. So let's talk about the launch trailer.
I wish we were reacting to the state of play just so we could react.
Anyway, we're back. Nothing weird happened. That Lightfall reveal trailer was pretty wild. I will say, launch trailer. Thank you. We are. Again, I gave a general spoiler warning, but like at this point, like I feel like if you're hours away waiting for this, you probably already watched this trailer, and if you're here at this point
probably
in the
3
podcast,
dozen times.
but to be fair, again, I will just still put out, hey, general spoiler warning. You've made it this long, hours away from Lightfall. Maybe just if you want to go in completely blind, I feel like you maybe wouldn't come to this podcast in general. But still putting it there. But now's the time to leave if you want to do that. The Traveler fucking shot a laser beam out of it.
Can you fucking believe that? He could do that this whole time?
The Traveler could do that the whole time, apparently.
He's a Warlock main. It is.
It's a Chaos Reach. And then a lot of keen eyes have already pointed out some interesting things of like we've more or less like kind of pieced together how this seems like this
scene.
This scene more or less like how they've shown enough of it now. Like basically it seems like the battle starts, the battle in space starts, and it basically goes really bad for us. There's no like that. I don't think I've seen anything that was leaning towards like, oh yeah, this is going. We at least get one win out of this now. It just seems like we take L after L in this fight of like a single pyramid ship just like lightly makes like a slight breeze or like a slight fart and like wipes out like half the fleet of ships. The Traveler tries to fight back and shoots a big light beam out of it, but it seems like it has no effect on the Witness whatsoever, because like now we know there's like scenes that we've seen in the trailer where he's just like silently walking through this big white, like looks like a blast. Like, now we know that's probably that scene of like the Witness nonchalantly walking through this big light beam that the Traveler's shooting. We can also see that the beam hits a pyramid and starts making all of like the growth of the red plants. So it is the Traveler, or you could say the gardener, growing the flowers from the flower game. And
interestingly,
for those crazy lore heads out there.
Oh yeah, we're playing the flower game, all right. You can connect that with the shot from previous trailer where the Witness is like looking out its pyramid and the flower starts coming in. Clearly, the Traveler is shooting directly at where the Witness is on the ship. Yeah. I do think it completely destroys that pyramid ship, but the Witness just goes straight through the beam through the Traveler. Because we see debris that is more pyramid-y around the Witness as well, which is why, again, the Traveler has done 3 things ever, and it's been 9 years. Yep. So this is a big jump from moving a little bit.
Yeah, just like slightly hovering above Earth.
It's wild.
Shooting a fucking laser beam. So we see that happening, and in the midst of that, you see a bunch of Guardians just get literally like sliced into pieces instantly. He just like
finger
flicks, like immediately
dissected.
immediately showing the power difference in like, that's like a quick and easy way to show, oh, this is the power difference. This is like
the Guardian didn't get the right buff before going.
They
couldn't do DPS.
Yeah, they are absolutely wiped from this encounter and for probably the rest of their life.
From everything ever.
from their entire life. So you see that, and clearly, like, the witness does some weird shit to the traveler and puts some pyramids around it. We don't really, that part was like fully not clear, so we'll have to see like what that means in the game. But clearly it seems like at a certain point the witness touches the traveler, I'm guessing, and gets a vision, and you see like a really quick shot like at the very end of the trailer where like it's like blasting through a couple planets, and it's clearly like you can see the very last second, you can see them kind of unfolding. You can see Neomuna, or not Neomuna, Neptune. So clearly that's like I want the fun twist to be like the witness was coming here this whole time, and we thought he was coming after the traveler, but he actually didn't give a fuck about the traveler, and he wants whatever's on Neomuna more. And clearly enough, it is at least important enough to where he like sends like Callus and the fleet there, because that's where we end up, obviously for the expansion. So. Again, but that's what we've seen so far, and that's pretty cool considering like if you like probably really all we've seen is probably this opening cutscene, which is like what we're going to see before the first mission of the game, and then there's like a whole other campaign to like go after that.
And
right?
then there's the rest. Like, what is the final? Like, what's the post-credit scene of this campaign?
Yeah, like what does this even mean? Like, if are we going to like go back to the tower in this thing still? Who knows? Maybe we're just like hanging on the Helm.
Is the tower
now?
still gonna be there? You know?
Are we gonna go to the tower and just see like the traveler up in the sky with all those pyramids around and be like, what the fuck is?
For the next year.
What does it even mean? So like, there's still a lot of wild stuff in that regard. Like, hype through the roof. Of course, seeing all that stuff. Seeing all that stuff. Just even though even though the hype was already through the roof, exactly. I built another roof and then went through that roof again. So there you go.
Yeah, it's this like the traveler firing its laser, so to speak, was like the one thing where I'm like, I could have not seen this and been fine. But also, I appreciate that in the context of this trailer, I still have no fucking idea what's happening. Yeah,
it's still just like what the fuck?
I get it. The traveler's shooting the witness and it's going to touch in its vision. Like, I get it. But also, like, the broader meaning of it all is like, the traveler has never shown aggression toward anything. It's just like,
and it still leaves like the weird vagueness of like, was he shooting at it because like something happened in the moments before that he's like is the traveler trying to protect like humans or guardians in that moment, or is it just like the travelers like maybe like making a distraction so other people can escape? Because we also see like little brief clips of like ships like hyper speeding like the fuck out of there, and I wonder if those could be like the Helm or some other ships like leaving. Or
was the shot of the light directed at Neomuna? Was the traveler like sending its core somewhere else?
Sending it somewhere else. And now, the traveler itself is some empty vessel or something,
Exactly. Like, the light was the traveler, and it was shooting it actually past the witness, and the witness will then get to the traveler and be like, oh, you just left. That was you.
You
like,
motherfucker.
We don't know. Any of this is possible. Well, theory corner.
For sure. It's we don't really know, and we won't know for, a few more hours. Some hours we gotta wait.
Can you tell that we're excited?
Yes, for real. Because we don't know where anything is going really after this point. Now we just have to play it. And I can't wait. I can't wait to jump in and play Lightfall and see. Of course, obviously new insane story stuff, but obviously all the other fun stuff about Destiny. Tons of new weapons. New other trinkets, seeing like new armor, seeing like new quests, or new strikes, new catalyst for weapons. Even me as a shill as like seeing new Eververse items and new shaders or other weird cosmetic-y stuff. I always like that stuff. New exotics
shaders are going to be great. They got to be great, right?
Yeah, they got to be really cool. Like, what's like we still don't fully know. Like, we've seen Neomuna environments, but like think of things that like happen in other expansions where you were like how much like all the weird secret stuff on the throne world where you're like doing the visions. Like, we haven't there's probably going to be stuff like that on Neomuna, like weird low collectible things, reasons to explore. We know there's like the activity, like the ongoing activity that's going on Neomuna. But like, what does that all entail? When the raid finally comes out in few weeks. How is that going to change Neomuna? Like, because obviously we've had raids in the past, like change what happens in the environment. Granted, like I think Beyond Light, Beyond Light had a big change relatively. Like I would say Witch Queen maybe less so, but you know, there's a potential this one could have like you know we go to the raid and something crazy happens and we just don't know. All
that's
kinds
the
of
best
lore
part.
stuff. Yeah, we just don't know yet, and that is in some ways the best part is like about to discover the unknown of a new Destiny expansion. It's always the most fun.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it though.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you want to watch us play Lightfall, if you want to hang out with us, maybe while you're playing, put it up on the background. We will be doing so.
Yeah.
I guess tomorrow.
Tomorrow at noon Eastern, when hopefully Lightfall goes live, and we will be probably waiting in queue for a little bit and probably looking through some menus and doing some fun stuff. But yeah, we are going to be playing through the legendary campaign of Lightfall together with our friend Ren.
I'm making a hardcore player Lightfall checklist that I'm going to put out on my Twitter for folks to follow if you are trying to optimize your first day in the expansion.
Yeah, what you want to do once you're in, and hopefully the queue is okay, and maybe there's hopefully not some technical issues getting the campaign. They've I know like Destiny's had some like weirdness earlier this season, the start of the season, but it's been pretty smooth. I will say like the last couple expansions were overall generally smooth launches, but I there will by regardless there will still be some kind of waiting queue. They've already said there will be some kind of waiting queue getting in, so we will have to kind of wait and see how that goes. And at the same time, like if you are somebody who's really into it and does not want to be spoiled by story stuff, we totally understand if you don't want to skip the live stream aspect of it. But I will be trying to chop down some of the, I'll say trim the fat, so to speak, of that stream we do and put the archive up here on Helm to Tower. So you do want to see it and see some of our just like general reactions to moments and stuff like after you played and have play through your own time. If you want to come back and see some of our reactions to like all kind of things we've been talking about, feel free to check that out as well. And I will link our Twitch as well, our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/irrational passions down below as well, so you guys can get that link if you've not ever checked out our Twitch channel.
We'll probably be streaming a lot of Destiny in the next month.
We should. We'll probably should do some kind of raid stream, even though we're not going to be doing a day one raid, but maybe we can like stream that a little bit. That'd be kind of fun. But we'll also be back next week, post Lightfall, to talk all things about the expansion, playing through it, and we'll probably talk about some spoilers there, talk about new weapons and new other things next week, and then keep going from there. We'll keep going weekly till we feel like we don't want to do one in a week or something, when the news gets maybe a little lighter. But thanks everybody who's been along for us for these 6 episodes or so.
Yeah,
it's
been super fun.
Super fun, and appreciate everybody hanging out with us. And enjoy Lightfall.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.